Okay, so we've been talking about working with lines. We are now ready to look into actually finding equations of lines. And the key is something we've already talked about, and that is we've seen that if we know the slope of the line and the y-intercept, we're able to get the graph. So if we know those two things, we'd be able to get the equation as well. Since those two things are enough to define the line, graph the line, if we know those two things, we'd have our equation. Because once we know the slope and y-intercept, we can plug those into our formula, y equals mx plus b. Okay, so if we have, for example, want to find the equation of the line that goes through, or has slope 2/3 and goes through the point 0,4, we can say, well, we know the slope, so let's put that down. The 0,4, because the x value is 0, we know that's on the y-intercept. Or we know that is the on the y-axis, so that is the y-intercept, so we can just write in 2/3 x plus 4. Okay, now, most of our problems aren't going to be that straightforward. A lot of times we're going to have to uncover, oh, here we go again. I guess I just should stop talking. This little yellow head wants to give you his information. Yes, if we don't know the slope and y-intercept, then we're going to need to decode them from the given information. We're going to take the information in the problem and use it to try to figure out the slope if it's not given to us. And if we're given the slope, then we need to try to figure out the y-intercept. Okay, so to kind of see this, let's consider a graph. And if we're given a point on that graph, say the point 3,5, all right, and then we're told the slope is 3/2. So remember that would be a y increase of 3 and an x increase of 2. Well, then what we do is we use those things to kind of backtrack along the graph till we find out where it crosses the y-axis. That's kind of the visual geometric picture of what's going on that we're now going to actually do algebraically. So we're going to first look at the situation where we're given a point and the slope. Now the point we're given is not the y-intercept itself, but we can use the slope along with the y-intercept to backtrack along that line until we actually find the y-intercept. And so let's consider this actual problem. I want to find the equation of the line that has a slope of 3/2 and goes through the point 3,5. So we know the slope, so we can go ahead and plug that into our formula. And then we have the point 3,5. Now that's nothing to do with the y-intercept, but 3,5 is a point in the graph, so we plug that into the equation for x and y. Okay, that gives us the equation now 5 equals 3/2 times 3 plus b. It's an equation now that has only one unknown. So algebraically, solving this equation for b is the same as geometrically slipping back along that line until you find the y-intercept. And so now we do that. We can simplify. 5 equals 9/2 plus b. Subtract 9/2 from both sides. Now 5, we write that with a common denominator of 2, will be 10/2. Minus 9/2 would be 1/2. And so we find that our y-intercept is b. Now if you rewind the video, you'll see that graph does actually cross the x-axis right around 1/2. In fact, exactly at 1/2. Once we now know the y-intercept, we already know the slope. Put those two things together, and we have the equation of our line, y equals 3/2 x plus 1/2. Let's consider a second example. This time we know the slope of our line is negative 4/3, and we're going through the point 2,1. Okay, so again, know the slope, so we can write that down. We then take that point 2,1, plug it in for x and y. Be careful when you're doing that. The point is 2,1, but our equation is written yx. Be careful not to put the 2 in for the y. Alright, the 2 is your x value, the 1 is your y value. So we plug that in. get our equation. 1 equals negative 4/3 times 2 plus b. And again, we simplify. Negative 4/3 times 2 would be negative 8/3. So now to solve for b, it's a fairly easy equation. Yeah, we have a fraction, but we only have to do one operation of arithmetic here. We add 8/3 to both sides to get b by itself. Again, we get a common denominator, so 1 becomes 3/3, plus 8/3 would be 11/3. So we now know our b value. Once you've gone through the work of getting the b value, please be careful and don't forget to actually write the equation. And so we write down our equation, y equals negative 4/3 x plus 11/3. Okay, on to our next video, we're going to look at some more examples, other ways of finding equations of lines. So here we were given a point and a slope. Now we're going to look at what happens when we're given other pieces of information about our line and how we can find the equation of that line.